Have you ever wondered how giants like Netflix or Amazon can push out updates all the time, constantly adding new features without, the whole thing just crashing? Well, the secret is a little something called microservices. And in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on exactly what they are, how they work, and why they're pretty much changing the game for building software.
So, here's our roadmap. We're going to start our story by looking at the old way of doing things, the Monolithic challenge. From there, we'll explore its exciting alternative, microservices. We'll weigh the good and the bad, and then we get to the fun part. How do you actually practically break a monolith apart into these small, powerful pieces?
All right, let's dive right in. We have to start at the beginning, with the monolith. For a really long time, this was just how you built software, and frankly, it made a lot of sense. But as you're about to see, it comes with some pretty hefty baggage, especially when your application starts to get bigger.
I want you to picture building a house, but with no interior walls at all. Your kitchen, your living room, your bedroom, it's all just one giant open space. That, believe it or not, is basically a monolith. Everything is packed into one single, massive, interconnected codebase. And sure, when you're just starting out, it's simple, it's fast, but you can imagine how quickly that becomes an absolute mess. So what's the real problem with this all-in-one approach? Okay, let's go back to our wall-less house. Let's say you want to upgrade your kitchen sink. Well, in the world of the monolith, you basically have to shut down the entire house to do it. A tiny bug in the payment code, the whole application could go down. It's just not efficient, and that single point of failure is a huge, huge risk.
Okay, so if that one big, clunky house is the problem, then what's the solution? Well, this is where microservices enter the picture. Let's take a look at how this completely different approach lets us build software that's way more flexible and, honestly, a lot tougher.
Instead of one giant open-plan house, microservices are like building a whole neighborhood of small, independent townhouses. Each house has its own plumbing, its own electrical system, its own kitchen. They're all connected by roads, of course, but, and this is the absolute key, they are not dependent on each other. You can completely remodel one house without bothering the neighbors at all.
So, what does this look like in the real world? Okay, think about an e-commerce site you use. Behind the scenes, it's not one giant program running everything. No way. It's actually a collection of dozens of tiny independent services. You've got one service just for the shopping cart, a totally separate one for processing payments, and another one just for recommending products. Each one is its own mini app, and they all talk to each other to give you that seamless experience.
And the advantages here are pretty incredible. For starters, it's way more scalable. If that online store gets a massive wave of shoppers for a big sale, they don't have to scale the entire website. They can just beef up the payment service. And if that recommendation service happens to crash, well, the rest of the site keeps on chugging along just fine.
But look, it's not a magic bullet. Microservices come with their own set of headaches, and the biggest one by far is complexity. Instead of managing one application, you're now juggling dozens, maybe even hundreds, of tiny services that all need to be connected, monitored, and kept secure. It's like going from being the manager of a single building to suddenly being the mayor of a sprawling city. It's just a different kind of work.
So, how in the world do you manage all that new complexity? This is where a huge mental shift has to happen. And the answer isn't some new fancy technology. It's actually a new way of thinking called domain-driven design. And it all starts by focusing not on the code, but on the business itself.
Domain-driven design, or DDD for short, is really all about getting a deep, rich understanding of the business you're building software for. It means developers actually sit down with the real experts, the people in shipping, in marketing, and sales, and together they build a shared model of how that part of the business really works. The whole goal is to make the software a perfect reflection of that business reality.
And one of the most powerful tools in DDD is this idea of a ubiquitous language. You can think of it like a special dictionary that everyone on the project agrees to use. So when someone in marketing says customer, a developer knows exactly what that means. The same rules, the same attributes, the same goals. This shared language wipes out a massive amount of confusion and makes sure everybody is building the same thing.
So how does having this shared dictionary actually help us build microservices? Well, it allows us to do something absolutely critical. It lets us define clear boundaries. It's like taking a map of the business and drawing clear borders, showing exactly where one country, or one domain, ends and another one begins.
Okay, so that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we take this high-level business understanding and actually turn it into a solid technical architecture?
How do we build those walls between the different parts of our systems so they don't just tangle back up into a new kind of mess?
The answer is a really powerful concept from DDD called the bounded context. Think of it as literally drawing a circle around a part of your business and saying, inside this circle, our special language has a very specific, consistent meaning. So inside the shipping context, a product has a weight and dimensions. But inside the sales context, that same product has a price and a discount. The bounded context is the wall that keeps those two ideas separate and clear.
So why does this matter so much? Because these bounded contexts are the absolute key to building microservices that are truly independent. By setting up these clear boundaries, we avoid that tangled, spaghetti code nightmare that monoliths can turn into. This is what lets a team fully own their service, change it, and innovate, all without accidentally breaking something for another team.
Okay, so we've got the theory down. We use domain-driven design to find these bounded contexts, and those become our microservices. Now let's get our hands dirty. How do you actually take a giant old monolith and carefully, piece by piece, break it apart? Let's walk through the playbook.
Now, let's be clear, breaking up a monolith is not a weekend project. It is a long, meticulous process that takes a ton of planning. It always starts with that deep business analysis, then defining those contexts, and eventually you get to the really hard stuff, like carefully untangling a single shared database that everything and everyone depends on.
Probably the safest and most popular way to do this is with a technique that has a great name, the strangler pattern. Imagine you have an old, crumbling house. Instead of tearing it down all at once, you start building a beautiful new house around it. You build a new kitchen, move into it, and then tear down the old kitchen. You do this room by room, until eventually the old house is completely gone and you're just left with the new one. That's the strangler pattern in a nutshell. So, what's the big takeaway here? Moving to microservices is never just a technical choice. It's an organizational choice. It's a structure that enables small, autonomous teams to move fast and innovate. It forces you to think clearly about your business. So the final question to ask yourself isn't just about the code, it's this: what does your current architecture say about your organization, and is it helping you move forward or is it holding you back?